Hi, everyone, again. Welcome to Building a Diverse and Inclusive BPO Culture. Thank you for spending time to learn with us today. This is a very important topic, DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion in your workplace. So even though you're not from the BPO industry, this is still helpful. So this webinar is brought to you by Payoneer. My name is Jen. I'm the marketing lead in Payoneer. So if it's the first time for you guys to hear about Payoneer, Payoneer is the world's go-to partner for digital commerce everywhere. So from borderless payments to boundless growth, Payoneer promises any business in any market the technology, connections, and confidence to participate and flourish in the new global economy. Powering growth for customers ranging from aspiring entrepreneurs to the world's leading digital brands like Airbnb, Upwork, etc. Payoneer offers a universal opportunities for you. So aside from payments, we also provide tons of content to our customers from blogs, ebooks, to webinars like this, and events. So just last week, we had our Pride event. It's an in-person event. So if you want to be kept in the loop, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So you may also visit our blog site and resource center. And yeah, you will be seeing the recording of this webinar on YouTube after our webinar. All right, before we proceed with our main speakers, my colleague here, Nikki Fernandez, our customer success associate for Southeast Asia, will be sharing how Payoneer helps customers be successful in their global business by providing secure, affordable, and tailor-fit global payment solutions. Nikki, take it away.
Hi, Jen. Okay, thank you. Hold on, let me share my screen. Okay, so let me know if you can see my screen now.
Yes, Nikki.
Okay, so first I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Nikki Fernandez. I'm part of Payoneer's customer success team. So I'm here today. I'll share with you how Payoneer helps freelancers and BPO owners to go globally. All right, so Payoneer we've been in the industry for 17 years. We are serving more than 5 million customers across 200 countries worldwide, and we are a Nasdaq listed business, and we have presence in 25 different locations in the world. And for Southeast Asia, since we love to work closely with our customers in Southeast Asia, we have presence in the following countries and Manila as our regional hub for Southeast Asia. So current events for Payoneer. So for the Philippines, we just had our Pride event last week in KMC Solution. So thank you so much for everyone who joined our offline event. So hopefully soon we see you in our next event. And more events for Payoneer. So we have here our country manager Monique Avila interviewed in Market Edge during the International Women's Day celebration. So we also released freelancer reports, the global freelancer sentiment last March 2023. And as you can see, we are very involved in the Philippine market, especially for the BPO sellers and freelancer industry. And then we champion the industry in media events in the form of studies, the annual Payoneer Forum, and other industry meetups. And we are also looking at doing more events in other parts of the country, especially the digital cities identified by DIC. So Payoneer is trusted by the world's leading digital brands. So we have such as for marketplace, we have Amazon and eBay. For the freelancer space, we have Upwork, Fiverr, Online Jobs PH. And for travel, we have Airbnb and Booking.com and many more. Okay, so we are also thankful to our BPO partners, especially to Virtual Solutions Outsourcing, our speakers for today's event, and other major reputable player in the space like KPOs like Emapta and Employer Records, and space provider like KMC Solutions, and leading medical health service providers like Hello Rich and Cavallo. So when you open a Payoneer account, you'll get to have tools to expand your business. So we'll give you ways how to get paid, use your funds, and to help you grow your outsourcing business. So now let me walk you through how does a typical BPO owner use Payoneer. So right after signing up for a Payoneer account, you'll receive a virtual receiving accounts that you can use to collect payments from either a marketplace or from your direct clients. So now for the marketplace, how can you collect payouts from them? So it's very easy. All you need to do is to connect your Payoneer account to the freelancing marketplace. So all you need to do is to choose Payoneer as your payout partner and use the USD bank details that we have provided you. So these are the virtual receiving accounts. And of course, with the same virtual receiving accounts in different currencies, you can use them to collect or accept bank transfers, especially from your direct international or overseas client. So you can use this in USD, Euro, AUD, GBP, and other currencies. So other form of to get paid is you can invoice your client via sending a payment request. So with a payment request, you can actually accept payments from Visa and MasterCard and other forms of payment in the US, such as e-check. And of course, if you have a Payoneer account, you can also receive a Payoneer peer-to-peer payment. So it's for free. So you can receive payments from fellow Payoneer users. So now, since you already have access to these funds in your Payoneer account, you can do the following for the money outflow. So for here in the Philippines, we have a strong relationship built with our settlement partners. So whichever bank you would like to withdraw, it's going to be very easy. And of course, if you want to have access instantly with your Payoneer balance, you can collect or cash out through our GCash integration in just a few clicks. And of course, you can also get the Payoneer MasterCard. You can use them to withdraw your money via any ATM. And of course, pay for any online or offline personal and business expenses. And of course, you can also use your Payoneer balance or funds to pay fellow Payoneer peer-to-peer. So it's for free. Or lastly, you can direct the payments to your contractor's local bank account directly. All right. So before I end my presentation, I'd like to share with you guys a client testimonial from Athena Go. So we have here our client, Bet Villion. So based from Bet, Payoneer makes it very easy for us to operate as a global company. We can pay team members wherever they are in the world and receive payments from clients in different currencies. So currently, they have more than 3,000 employees, not just in the Philippines, but worldwide. So we help them you have to collect payments from their clients in the US and in Australia, and they are also using the Payoneer MasterCard debit card to pay business expenses. Right, so if you need to contact us, so here are different channels you can reach us. We also have an official Facebook page and a dedicated line of support for our Filipino customers. And of course, if you want to know more latest news and updates, you can follow us through our social media platforms, our LinkedIn, Twitter, our blogs, Facebook pages. our YouTube channel, and of course, Instagram. All right. Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone, and happy Pride for this month of June.
Thank you, Miggy. All right. Thank you for that sharing, Miggy. So on to our main speakers. So our first main speaker is Virtua Solutions co-founder and co-CEO, Penn Camille Lat. She graduated cum laude from the University of the Philippines. She has since dedicated herself to nearly a decade in the sales and customer service industry. And in those years, she has developed a strong drive to deliver the best of her clients. Penny has also pushed for service improvements that greatly help clients and their customers. So yeah, Penny will be our first speaker, and then afterwards we also have another session with Francis. And after their presentations, you guys can ask questions. We'll have a panel with our main speakers, and then you can already start writing your questions on the chat box or on the Q&A box. All right. Thank you, Penny. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much for attending today's webinar brought to us by Payoneer. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen here. Okay. As Jen mentioned, today's topic is about building a diverse and inclusive BPO culture. So to start off, let me introduce myself and this gorgeous being right here in this slide. So my name is Penny. I'm the co-founder and co-CEO of Virtual Solutions. And this gorgeous being here is Francis, my co-founder and co-CEO as well. So Virtual Solutions is a remote work BPO company. Our primary clients are from the SaaS industry, but we do have clients in the real estate space as well. We're fully Filipino owned, and all of our employees right now are from the Philippines as well. So what sets us apart and what our goals are? So Francis and I, our history, we started out as freelancers. And so our experience really is we're so used to being as if we're right next to where our clients are. We're like really smack in the middle of things, talking to people in the US, and there's no really middleman. And that's really our goal with our accounts right now, and even our people, is that to make our clients feel as if we're working right next to them, even though we're miles away. So how do we do that? One of the things that we, Francis and I, really focus on, it's just one of the things that we do. I'm not going to say that it's the only thing that we do so that we can deliver this kind of service to our clients, is to focus on diversity and inclusivity. So let me start off with, what does diversity and inclusivity mean? So I'm going to use this quote by Verna Myers. Verna Myers is a global leader in the DEI space, diversity, equity, and inclusion space. And she said, diversity is being invited to the party. Inclusion is being asked to dance. So diversity just means that in your team, you have a mix type of people, whether it's a mix of age, gender, religious views, political views, or what have you. Inclusion is making sure that every team member feels valued, respected, and involved. So valued and respected for me, it's basic, very basic. But to make someone feel that they're involved, that they have a voice in your team, you need to be doing something else to be able to inculcate that in someone in your team. So in the BPO industry, one of the challenges that we have really is the attrition or turnover rate. Actually, in the Philippines, our turnover rate is higher than in other countries. It's estimated at 30 to 40%. 14% of BPO employees plan to shift in the next 3 to 6 months. And we have heard studies where it's so costly to do new hire acquisition as compared to retaining employees. And it's not just a matter of cost or price, it's a matter of time and effort as well. So you're deploying your HR resources, your trainers, and then after that, your trainers. And then even after training, the productivity of your associate or agent even isn't optimal yet because of the learning curve. So compared to someone who's already been in your team for quite a while, who's operating at an optimal state, and comparing that to a new hire where they're still learning the ropes, their output or their outputs are not at par yet. So the differences in the costs, time, and effort invested to the in these people are very different. So when a company focuses on diversity and inclusivity, it's been found out that actually employees that work in those type of companies, 9.8 times they're more likely to look forward to going to work, 6.3 times more likely to have pride in the work, and so employee retention actually goes up by 5.4 times. It's not it's not really surprising that if you were to focus on diversity and inclusivity, that your employees or your team members have greater productivity. And why do I say that? If they feel that they're part of your team, plus if you, as you can see here, if they look forward to going to work, they have pride in their work, then they're more likely to be engaged. And engaged employees go the extra mile for the organization. And it's not just meaning just on the task that you're giving them. It's also it can also come from, you know, giving you feedback, giving you insight on what can be improved in your organization. As far as better decision making, I'm of the opinion that for any problem, any challenge, and issue that you're facing, there's really no one path and try it, and no one solution for it. And so if you're stuck, or you don't see a path forward, then maybe what you lack is perspective. And so if you have a diverse team, you can tap to the unique perspective of each of your team members so that you can come up with a decision on how to move forward for that problem, for that challenge. There's a concept in Six Sigma called Gemba Walk. And what that means is you go where the process is actually happening. So before you do any process improvement, see first what's happening throughout the entire process. And what better way to find out what's happening through the entire process by, you know, tapping the shoulder of one of your employees who's actually doing the process day in and day out and have them walk you through it. It's not enough to just look at the process at the basis of you have process documentation, right? And just look at that face value. Sometimes the points of improvement for any process really comes from the people that are doing that process. You know, as leaders, so in a meeting, in one of my meetings, I've told one of my teams that as leaders, we don't know everything really. But the best that we can do is to make an informed decision. And so I have always told our team members that if there's anything that they're noticing, whether it's process, policy, you know, just raise their hands or talk to us. If they're not comfortable talking to their direct, talk to me. We have an open door policy in Virtua so that they can surface their opinions and communicate what they think can be improved on. Since there's employee retention, you're preventing more cost from new hire acquisition. You have greater productivity from your employees. It's also no surprise that business results and profits are also stronger. In studies made by, I believe this is Harvard that made the study, companies with gender diverse executive teams are 25% more likely to be profitable. And this again kind of relates to what I was saying earlier regarding better decision making, having a diverse team, different perspectives, as long as each and every single person in that team feels involved and can voice out their opinions. Harvard Business Review also discovered that diverse companies are 70% more likely to capture new markets, which in turn yields higher performance. And why is that so? Since you have a diverse team, and maybe that market that you're targeting is actually the market is, and one of your team members might actually belong to that market. So you're in a unique position to use or talk to your team member and try to understand the needs and wants of your market. So you're in that unique position as long as your team is diverse. A bigger talent pool. So 76% of job seekers and employees consider a company's diversity and inclusion when deciding where to apply for jobs. Right now, as you know, this generation, it's not about the paycheck anymore. They apply for companies that align with their values. In hiring, as much as we say, we try to find people that are the right fit for what we're looking for what we're trying to fulfill in the companies that we serve, it's also the same the other way around. Applicants are also looking for the right company that they want to work with. And so having the DEI policies in your company leads to a bigger talent pool. So how then do we build an inclusive culture? Start with leadership. So this one, I mentioned this way back, I'm very passionate about this one regarding starting with leadership. And we're not just, I'm not just mentioning, it's not just top leadership, meaning the COO, CEO. It's not always going to be, okay, let's have an inclusive culture, and then no one else does anything. What this means is even your TLs, your team leads, needs to be aligned with building with trying to build an inclusive culture, because they are the ones who are actually talking to your people, doing one-on-ones with them, interacting with them day by day. The other thing about this is, as much as it's important that top leadership is aligned with building an inclusive culture, any initiatives that you do, it's really the people that are managing your people that will implement those initiatives. There are moments where, of course, when you hire people, right, and they're very new to the team, and so they're not like very much used to yet with how you want to run your team, and this has happened before, how you want to run the team. And so in that recruitment process, any leadership role, you have to prep them that this is how we want things done. We want an inclusive culture. We want to make sure that you have an open door policy, that you're open into getting feedback from the people that you manage. Practice psychological safety. So psychological safety is feeling that you won't be humiliated when you voice out your suggestions or opinions. And this one is very important as well. I'm going to tell you a story. So Francis and I met because we were both freelancers then, and we used to work for a SaaS company. And that company, that startup company, was really good at making us feel like we belong. Like, we had recurring meetings with product and engineering where we would share what we're hearing from customers and even share how we're experiencing their product. That kind of changed when they hired someone to lead the product team, so the VP of product. We still had recurring meetings, but then any idea, any suggestion that we made was met with variations of no. Like, just outright no. Within the same call, no. And so there were even murmurs after that maybe we should just listen to what they have to say instead of talking, because like they're not understanding the feedback that we're trying to give them. There was a time where I was on leave. I was the customer support manager for the entire remote team then. I was on leave, and I heard that there was a disagreement between how a certain bug of the software is going to be documented and addressed. And so when I got back from my leave and I read the entire thread, of what happened, the image in my head was, if you've seen those Western movies, those duels where there's a shot of that protagonist, the eyes of the protagonist, and then there's another shot of that villain, just twitching, and then their hands hovering over their pistols, and then just one wrong move, someone was going to snap. That was the image in my head when I read the entire thread of the conversation that we were having. When I went back, we sorted it out. Yeah, we sorted it out. But the thing is, that event, it kind of triggered one of our Pioneer team members who was very vocal. I call him my ideas guy, who was very vocal. He called me up one day and just said he was done. And actually, that guy is my business partner who's going to be talking later, Francis. So he resigned from our team. As it for a startup, I, I I really thought that it was a loss for them because someone in our team was very vocal about what he was hearing from customers, and not even that, and not only that, it was also he was very vocal about what processes can be put into place, not even just on this customer support team, but even on the product side, on the marketing side. So yeah. So am I saying that you shouldn't say no to any of the suggestions made by your team? Absolutely not. But what I will say is you have to give it thoughtful consideration. If not thoughtful consideration, if it's, if the idea is something that you've already thought about before and already kind of thought that it might not work, then let your team member know that it's something that you've thought about, and here are the reasons why. Gather employee feedback. So the reason why I started with psychological safety first before gather employee feedback is that if there's no psychological safety within your team or within your organization, whatever you gather on your employee feedback, whether it's through surveys, focus group discussion, one-on-ones, they're not going to speak up. It's not going to be accurate. So you have to make sure that everyone in your team feels psychologically safe, and then start gathering employee feedback. Again, surveys, FGDs, one-on-ones. That can be done, even peer-to-peer. That can also be done. So in one of our accounts, I had a survey done, an employee survey done. And one of the associates was apparently he had a comment, which they tried to hide from me. But because this team was one of the teams that I was heavily involved in, I found out. So the comment was, surveys are a sham. In Tagalog, survey. And granted, this is the first time I've had the survey done for this team, so it's not really a reflection of what we do with surveys with Virtua, but it's also a sign of what's happening when employee surveys are done. Are there initiatives, are there actions after the survey? So you have to make sure that when you do gather employee feedback, you sift through it, you unpack it, do something, take an action, and then also measure it after, so that the employees feel like, because the next time you do a survey and nothing has been done, nothing has changed, they're not going to give you any feedback anymore. So for this survey that I had for this account, 90% of it, I was really happy. I'm going to say that I was really happy about 90% of it. 10% of it, was a kind of, it's something that we still need to work on. But I welcome that. I'd rather see that 10% there, so I know what I can work on. The thing is, and just a word of caution when you're trying to get employee feedback, not everyone has the communication skills to be able to convey what they want to happen or the feedback that they want. And so sometimes their words are going to be harsh. It may come across as if they're being, what do you call that? They're confrontational. And so as leaders, what you really have to do is to unpack it. You have to understand that not everyone has those communication skills. So you will have to unpack that comment, that feedback, and try to get to the root of the problem, and then address that. Document practices. So as far as documenting practices, as I mentioned, you do your survey, you do action, you come up with an action plan. You have to make sure that you document your action plan, your practices, so that you can also document where you're starting from and where you're ending up with based on that action plan. The other thing here is, if you decide on any policy that you want to do for your team regarding inclusivity, diversity, and inclusivity, make sure that you write them down. In one of the Payoneer events, just recently, the Lead Loud and Proud, Chris Eugenio of Philippine Finance and Inter-Industry Pride said that if it's not written down, then it's not policy. Make sure that it's written down and everyone in your team knows that it's in your code of conduct or whatever, wherever you want it, employee handbook. Make sure that it's policy. It's written down. Okay. Recruitment. We cannot build a diverse team if we don't talk about recruitment. As far as recruitment goes, I will just give an overview because most of the tactical ones will my business partner will discuss. Your leadership, anyone who has a say in who joins your team, make sure that they undergo unconscious bias training. Make sure that they're also aligned with what you're trying to do with your company which is to have a diverse and inclusive culture so that it permeates there, because that's really where it starts. In Virtua, when we were quite small, teeny tiny baby company, Francis and I used to do the onboarding intro call. And the last slide there was always, we're very picky people. We're very choosy in who we want to join our team. So our only ask is for this new team member to be vocal about their feedback and their questions. In a remote setup such as ours, our red flag really is if someone doesn't talk. If someone, especially a new hire, if there's no questions at all, that's a red flag for us. And so the last thing that I will say regarding diversity and inclusivity is, in the BPO setup, day in and day out, we talk about KPIs, how to improve those, SLAs, handle time, productivity, utilization scores, and all those numbers. But let's not forget that we work with people, and people are not numbers. So diversity, equity, and inclusion is not an option for us. We should be doing it in our companies. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. That is correct. It is not, I resonate with that. It's not an option. We should have diversity, equity, and inclusion. And actually, for myself also, it's just this year that I was familiarized with the DEI. Like, it should be a policy. So I'm trying to work with like our local like team, if how we can implement it. Like even though we're just 11 here in the Philippines, like we should be implementing this like fully. Agree with you. Like if it's not written down, it's not a policy. So yeah, like just like what Chris Eugenio of PFIT said. All right. Okay. Thank you, Penny. So later we'll have you back for the panel or the Q&A. Our next speaker is Virtua Solutions Co-CEO and co-founder, as mentioned by Penny, Francis Guintu. For over a decade, he worked with more than 40 companies, delivering quality customer service. His career spanned many roles, including product trainer, training supervisor, and subject matter expert. He has since used this knowledge and experience to hone the next generation of virtuous world-class service agents. So, hi Francis. So Francis is based now in UK.
Yeah.
So it's still early in his part of the world. Francis, take it away.
Thank you very much, Jan. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time to join this webinar. I hope you pick something up from from this little talk of ours. So just to introduce myself again, my name is Francis, and yes, I do happen to be in London at this time. It's going to be a short stint, but excited to be back. But in the meantime, uh, I am, I guess to say, living it up. Happy Pride to everybody. And let me go ahead and share my screen as well. And please let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes.
Awesome.
It's not yet in presentation mode.
Not yet. Yeah. Because I can't see it from there. Yeah. There you go. So my topic, thank you, Jan. So my topic is going to be a continuation of Penny's conversation earlier. That's why she didn't really expand on some of the topics that she I know she was dying to explain as well. But my topic is building an inclusive BPO culture, exploring ways to foster diversity in recruitment, promote equal opportunities, and create a sense of belonging for all employees. So as you know, and as Penny explained, Virtual Solutions is our baby. We have been building it up steadily for the last 5 years. Proudly Filipino owned, proudly uh, uh, remote at the same time. Hopefully, still growing. We've gone through some really great strides in terms of growing our company, and that's why a lot of things that have recently come to mind for us is expanding our team internally. She may have let on earlier that we used to literally do everything ourselves. As and when I say everything, that literally mean everything. Like I was recruitment, we were recruitment, we were payroll, we had to design and put up our website because we had, limited budgets and all that. So at this point where we find ourselves is having to share roles and responsibilities with regards to leadership, and that's one of the things now that we have to ensure is because when we had full control over how the company was moving, um I'm sure that we had uh as part of our policies diversity, equity, inclusion. But now that we're having to share those roles and responsibility, there became a real need for us to ensure that these policies are also being shared across the board, across the network, that it's also being understood by all of the members of our team. Why? I go for the scope of Sundar Pichai. A diverse mix of voices leads to better discussions, decisions, and outcomes for everyone. And for everybody, I would love to hear from you. If okay lang mag-Tagalog, just just message me on chat if it's okay. If there's anybody here who doesn't speak Tagalog, speak your mind. I'm happy to do it all in English, but I would love to just be able to relax a little bit, tell some stories in Tagalog. So let me know if there are violent reactions for to me doing that. So the reason why I say diverse mixes of voices leads to better discussions. You know how some people have a tendency to surround themselves with people who are most like them, right? Uh, some people think that it's actually a boon, this person thinks exactly like me, my ideas are her ideas, or my ideas my my tendencies are their tendencies, and that creates a sense of strength because we are a united team. However, if you come to think about that, and maybe that's one of the reasons why I find myself very, very blessed uh to be able to have a working stint outside of the country as well, because it's exposing me to a lot of different things. And one of those things that I am so strangely introduced to is that the lack of homogeneity in the groups that I'm working with here. It's a lot more robust. It's surprisingly more diverse. The ideas that I'm hearing, the conversations that I'm having is not something that you would typically hear from, I mean, we have our own set of diversity, but I guess outside the country there's diversity in terms of gender and religion, as well as, just typically things that we may not find, like like a Filipino setting. In the Philippines, our teams are are diverse, but at the same time not as diverse because we're pretty homogenous as a race. But it's a conversation for another time. However, when we discuss diversity, equity, inclusion, and how it affects a company, you may be somewhere in this audience. You may be somebody who is part of a group who would like to say, What's the difference if my group is more than just men, or more than one gender, or more than one gender orientation? Or maybe you are a an aspiring businessman who's looking to expand his team or start your own company, start hiring people, and you want to do it right. I hope this is something that you can pick up on. So, recruitment is your company's entry point in ensuring diversity. Obviously, recruitment and hiring is any company's entry point in expanding and growing your business. That ensures that ensures a company that it is growing when you're continuously hiring. But the question is, who are the people that you are hiring? So there are key steps to ensure diversity in recruitment. And I am going to discuss these in bullet points, but I'm going to pick on specific items because of I do have 30 minutes and I have a lot to discuss. But raise your hands if you want to you want to hear some of these items discussed in detail. But here are your key steps: developing an inclusive recruitment strategy. When you say inclusive recruitment strategy, that means you have to look at your key points of hiring processes and ask yourself, is this diverse? Is this inclusive? Does this allow us the maximum reach in hiring for people that we're looking for? Eliminating bias was mentioned by Penny, my business partner and friend. I will mention that because she didn't. Um, lol. Uh, Eliminating bias it requires looking into yourself, into your processes. That tells you self-reflection, and not a lot of people are welcome to or are open to introspection and telling themselves, like, what is it exactly that is wrong with me, and therefore sometimes the hardest to fix. And one more thing, if you haven't really thought about this, Filipinos tend to be very, very racist. um so if that's something that you disagree with, then it's something that you need to look into. Expanding your candidate sources. A lot of companies, and I have been in the past 20 years, have been exposed to working for a lot of colleagues, a lot of consultants, a lot of companies as well, who have very interesting hiring practices. And sometimes, and what I heard most often is, having select universities as sources for hiring, right? Maybe you're familiar with that. Feel free to share in the comment box. I would love to know what you think. But I specifically know about some companies who say they hire from the big four. I will not mention the big four, but that means you're only looking at four colleges, four universities. That is not expanding your candidate sources. That is limiting your company's growth and potential. Job descriptions and requirements. I will actually discuss this in the next slide, but basically saying, like, what do your job descriptions look like? Is it inclusive? Is it prohibitive? Having diverse interview panels means not having one person be the decision maker when hiring. Employer branding actually tells you that your company shouldn't just tout diversity, equity, inclusion. It should be visible in all of its aspects. And then employer referrals means, of course, taking in, um, you know, people who your people trust. And then diversity training and education is something that's very interesting. It's actually picking up in the Philippines. I have met a lot of people who had, I have run into companies whose one of their main points right now is building departments that specifically focus on training and education to include diversity and inclusion, and then tracking and measuring progress. Of course, no process is complete without being able to track and measure the progress of your tracking the progress of your company. So, having said that, so talking about job descriptions and requirements, what do we mean by this? Uh, Sorry, if you can just give me 1 second, please. Yeah. So when you look at job descriptions like these, and I'm sure you might have already seen stuff like this when when looking at uh company, or rather ad bulletin boards and stuff, where they say you must be a graduate of any 4-year course, you must have pleasing personality, you must be 25 to 35 years old, must be single. Actually, it's usually not female, it says preferably female, right? But what does this sort of job ad tell you in terms of uh what are the people that, the people that I'm looking for, right? If this for you comes across as prohibitive, because right now I'm going to look at this, there's already like three out of the actually four out of the five things that eliminates me from qualifying for this job, which is, for me, that's immensely surprising that you're only looking for a specific subset of people to hire for your company, right? And that's, like I said, if that's a point of interest for you, it's a point of interest for me, because do you tell yourself like uh how are you really interested in hiring somebody who is fit for the role, rather than somebody who is qualified enough to do the job? Does that make sense? Sorry, I might have to disconnect my mic. Jen, can you please check my sound test if it still works after this?
Okay. But your mic is okay.
Yeah, yeah, my mic is okay, but can you guys still hear me?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, awesome. Sorry. So yeah, um, I will go back. So you have to always like review and revise job descriptions requirements to ensure that your job description and your requirements do not contain unnecessary barriers. Focus on the essential skills and qualifications. What you are looking for is to hire people who can do the job, not people who can do the job and look good while doing it, right? Rather than unnecessary criteria that may disproportionately exclude certain groups. Your main focus, if you are hiring, is to focus on a candidate that can do the job, bar none. So when it comes to diversity education and inclusivity training, the and this is again a result of something that me and Penny had to go through ourselves, is you start increasing awareness and understanding of different backgrounds, experiences, and perspectives. Like if before your mindset is uh, an account manager is preferably male in your head, you have to ask yourself why, right? If you tell yourself that if I'm hiring for an HR person, preferably female, you want to ask yourself why. If you tell yourself that no HR manager, middle manager over 50, then you got to ask yourself why. Why does that come into play when you're deciding on this person that you're, why are you envisioning a certain person to do the job that you're looking to do, right? So you want to raise awareness about unconscious bias and its impact on decision making. If again this is something that you haven't looked at yourself before, you want to start asking yourself again, if you are in the realm of HR, if you are in the realm of like, if you are a business owner and maybe relying on yourself to hire people, then ask yourself, are you really arming yourself with the best people who have the potential to help you with your team, your job, your business? So with that, we talk about unconscious bias. So unconscious biases are prejudices and stereotypes that individuals have about certain groups of people that they aren't consciously aware of having. These biases may exist towards people of various races, ethnic groups, gender identities, sexual orientations, physical abilities, and more. Now, again, this may be a touchy subject to I'm just gonna go back, unconscious biases, and asking yourself, what is it about me that asks me to like envision what's going on when I try to hire people, right? So if you are now looking at yourself, again, if you have been hiring people, or if you're looking at people and then judging them by any measure at all, let's look at some examples of these unconscious biases. So first off, there is a ton of this, and I could actually take about an hour and a half just talking about these little unconscious biases, because little did I know that in this journey I was like, oh my gosh, I probably hit like about 90% of all of these. We're going to talk about it some, we're not going to talk about all of them. So um some of these you may actually recognize for what it is. Like ageism, for example, is a bias towards age. You probably tend to look at people who give off the aura of youth, people who give off the aura of virility, as more competent rather than people who are of a certain age, and therefore you don't count them as being capable, right? So I'm going to start off again with some of the items here that I would like to highlight due to the time constraints. But let's look at, for example, affinity bias, which is the first bullet point in this discussion. So when we talk about affinity bias, you're looking at a candidate. You look at a candidate and then you tell yourself, I agree with this person. I like what he's saying. And then you take a look at this person. Oh, it's because we come from the same school, right? Or we come from the same course. And therefore, your opinion of this person changes uh, to be on the more positive side. And you find yourself thinking this person is qualified because he is a little bit like me. And then hence the problem of affinity. I will go to conformity bias, because this is one of the main issues that happens when you have panel interviews. So panel interviews are both really, really good and can also be really, really bad. If you are holding a panel interview, but you are allowing yourself to be swayed by the decisions of the panel around you. So um, when you say conformity, say, for example, if we are three people doing an interview, right? I do my interview, I write down my notes 50-50. So I could be the person who says I could go either way with this person. But this is my decision to make. But when you start talking to your panel and say, I like this person because it's like this, like this, like this. And then you start telling yourself, oh yeah, maybe I do like this person. And then you move your needle up to agree. Or on the negative side, when somebody says, I don't like that person for whatever bias that they're telling us, and you find yourself being drawn to his decision, and therefore you now have two people who are voting against the candidate for whatever his bias was, not necessarily your own, but because you are a contributor for that panel, then you actually contributed to a conformity bias. The halo effect is one of also it's also one of my favorites. It's looking at a CV and say, ooh, magna cum laude. And that already changes your entire perception of that person, because magna cum laude, that means he is smart. That means he is, not smart. He's also, probably very organized with his stuff. He's probably very diligent. He probably made his mama proud. And that's your halo effect. That's throwing away all of your perceptions just on one items that you put a lot of weight into. Again, it could also be schools. It could also be from, like, if his address was Ayala Alabang, and then you're like, oh my gosh, this person must be, rich. He's going to contribute to my company because he adds to the atmosphere or whatever. On the opposite side, you have the horns effect. But when you talk about the horns effect now, you're now looking at somebody who is like, I'm just gonna do like a fun one, like while UP also is one of the top universities, one of the horns effect there is that this person must be what's the word, palaban. He's going to challenge the authority. He's going to rouse the rebels, the rebel records, and then that innately colors your perception of this person, even though you haven't really built an opinion of them, right? Gender bias is obviously something that is very, very prevalent again in the Philippines, because we're mostly homogenous as a race. We're mostly divided by in terms of gender, and the other biases. But seeing female roles, again, usually not being seen in strong leadership roles because of their gender. At the same time, when you say men may not be considered for roles that were traditionally, like, maybe targeted for women, like accountancy roles, for example. I don't even know why I said accountancy. Maybe it's my unconscious bias. I don't know, right? But you understand what I mean. It's like sometimes you look at somebody who just recently get hired and you surprise yourself and say, "Ay babae," or on the other side, "Ay lalaki." Or maybe a gender orientation, "Ay bakla." And then that's well, actually that's an orientation bias, but you understand what I mean, right? So one of the other things that come up to me very, very specifically when I am doing my interviews is, do I look at an overconfidence bias? It actually goes down all the way to the bottom, wherein an overconfidence bias colors your perception because of how this person carries himself, maybe during an interview, maybe during the panel, maybe during, like your one-on-one. Sometimes an abundance of confidence, obviously an abundance of confidence is good, but that's never really the one thing. You have to look at, like, where is this confidence coming from, right? Because some people technically might be more bark than actual bite. So 16 different unconscious biases, and how do we avoid these, right? So if you are in recruitment, again, if you're in a leadership role, if you're in a position to hire somebody, and the goal of hiring somebody is to be able to do a job and to do a job well, you want to be able to actively take note of your similarities and dissimilarities. Am I looking at this person based on how similar he is to me or how dissimilar he is to me, right? And if possible, remove aspects of the candidate outside of their skill sets and experience. Their name, if you find yourself oddly turned off by names like Mohammed, or uh, oddly sounding names, or even Christian names, for example, Benedict, right? Age, gender, education, you have to take that away. Again, you look at whether this person can do the job. Do they have the right skill set to do the job? Do they have the right experience to do the job? That's really all that should matter. You want to consider panel interviews and blind interviews and other interview techniques. And when you say blind interview, you want to look at interviewing this person based on, if you look at a CV, you basically ask your recruitment people to take away personal information and just go by experience, right? Now, panel interviews, of course, we've discussed that earlier. And other forms of blind interviews is just interviewing a person over the phone. So, of course, you can't really eliminate, like, the voice and consider their gender, but it doesn't tell you anything else about the person that you're interviewing. One of the other interview techniques that I like is really removing the name and just looking at skill sets first, or maybe doing a voice interview first. Rather, like, listening to recordings first of how this person speaks. If you're interviewing for a call center job, and then listen to how this person speaks, listen to their experience, ask them specific items to discuss before actually meeting them in person. So we move on. How do we promote in a company? After recruitment, how do you promote equal opportunities and a sense of belonging? So some of these, again, is something that I would love to just reiterate because of what Penny said. A commitment to commit. And we are discussing this all, so these are just bullet points, but we will move forward with this. You want to establish inclusivity policies, foster an inclusive environment, have employee resource groups. You want to have mentorship and sponsorship programs, inclusive leadership, feedback and surveys. You want to celebrate diversity and work on continuous improvement. So defining your commitment, or what I would say, commitment to commit. You can't just say, guys, do we have a, and do we have a diversity document already? Do we have a diversity policy? You have to be clearly communicating this to your organization, that our company celebrates diversity, that we as a company are inclusive, that we do not tolerate hate, exclusion, we do not tolerate uh, biases towards anything. And it should clearly show, again, in everything, top to bottom. It should reflect from leadership. And when you say it reflects from leadership, that means you're able to uh you're basically walking the walk. You talk the talk, you walk the walk. You look at people, you do not judge them based on their gender, their bias. You have to be able to actively influence your organization to say inclusive, 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 diverse, diverse, diverse. So not only should it reflect from you, it should reflect in your company's values and your policies and practices. In terms of establishing inclusivity policies, and here's the one thing that we said back then, when HR, recruitment, finance, IT was two people, which was me and Penny. Basically, inclusivity policies lived in our hearts, lol. But the truth is, it's something that really needs to exist on paper, and something that needs to be able to translate to all of your people. As humans, you are prone to human errors. Therefore, you want to be able to say, the company has an HR policy and practices that ensure inclusive. Your recruitment, your hiring, promotions, compensation improvements, and employee development should show inclusivity, not biases towards people that are most like you, not biases that are people who are graduates. Not, you look at your pool of people, in your pool of individuals, you say they are all eligible for the same level of promotion, same level of compensation, the same ability the same opportunities to develop and move up the ladder. So you want to ensure that these policies promote diversity, equal opportunity employment, and actively seek diverse candidates. So when you say actively seek diverse candidates, sometimes it can be both a boon and a curse. Because when you say, and this is something that I've told Penny. Penny, feel free to jump in and discuss this. Like, one time I asked her, Penny, how many old people do we have on our team? Right. And because this is something that we kept asking ourselves, like, are we ageist, like, do we or are we gunning for a certain subset of people, and is this helping us or hurting us? And when I asked ourselves, do we actually have old people? And then we looked at, and when I say old, like, just somewhere above the 35 to 45, right? And then we found out we've hired people who are at 56 and 57, and we were like, yeah, we hired this person. Like, why did we end up doing that, right? So is it because we were actively seeking them, or because in our heads when we were interviewing, and when you interview, you always have 10, 20 people that you're considering from, that person rose to the top and had nothing to do with his age, right? We have people who are of certain handicaps, and that has never stopped us. I mean, working from home is basically the greatest equalizer of all things. So it really has nothing to do with that. But at the same time, it's nice to know that your policies actually live and breathe in your company as well. So we also want to foster an inclusive environment. You always want to encourage open communication, create safe spaces where your employees feel comfortable to express themselves. And yes, I was the person in that story, in Penny's story. Because I am loud, out, and proud, I usually get to talk. Like, wasn't in the company, but me and Penny were working together in one team. So you want to make sure that that the same thing doesn't happen to you. That sometimes you you think that this one person who always has something to say, they always have something to complain about it, because do they become an annoyance, or is that person a source of information that you should glean from? Should they have the ability to complain as much as they like, or should at least be able to have a channel where they can communicate their ideas, right? You want to encourage teamwork, collaboration, mutual respect among employees, and foster an environment that values and appreciates diverse perspectives. That means in one team, whether you're a team of 5, a team of 15, or a team of 40, right? The teamwork should be there. The ability to collaborate should be there. Nobody should be excluded. All opinions heard and all of them matter. Now, I know that can be a very, very obvious thing to say, because when you tell yourself, yeah, of course you should be inclusive, but you can be you'd be very surprised how cliques develop, and how easily people can feel excluded because of every variety of reason, because she's the only woman in a four-man team, which technically ideally shouldn't happen. That because they're the only non-graduate in a team of 10 people who are all graduates, right? Those are all biases that you have to ensure does not exist within your team as well. You want to have employee resource groups, and this is something that I very, very much have been a strong advocate of every time I meet somebody. Like uh you know when you say is employee resource groups, these are affinity groups where your employees can connect, share experiences, they support one another. ERGs are very different aspects. It could be gender, so it could be like an all women's group. It could be race, right? Ethnicity. If you have ethnic minorities in your office, like and of course LGBTQ plus, because we're celebrating Pride, does your company have an out group, right? Communities and disabilities, people who are samahan ng mga ADHD, could be. You want to support these groups by providing resources and opportunities for them to contribute to the organization's goals. Now, it's one thing, you have to understand, it's one thing to have a Slack channel ng pink group, of your company. That's just a Slack channel. That's not an employee resource group. Employee resource groups are supported by the organization to help them achieve their goals in helping the company, right? And when you say, and maybe just one of the more recent examples is, for example, in our team, we just realized, because of course we have a good amount of women in the team, what are we actually doing to promote, to help women who are single, who are also giving birth, for example, if they're on a freelance group, what sort of support structure do they have so that they can work towards, and how are we helping them get through that? How can we help them become productive team members while at the same time, of course, enjoying single motherhood, right? If you have any questions about that, please message, but that's exactly what I'm saying. You know, and at the same time, actually, you have, not just single women, you have, I don't know, like dad bod society, for example, and you have your dads who are trying to be good providers. They're trying to be, at the same time, how do you keep them happy, healthy, productive? Because they will have problems themselves. They have to deal with work, and then at home uh they have to deal with their kids, and kids can get sick, and which would take time away from them. How are you supporting them? And that's why employee resource groups are, because it's not always like, you leave your family, not leave your family, sorry. You leave your personal problems when you come to work. But oftentimes, a lot of personal things can catch up with people at work. And that's your responsibility as a business owner or as a company, and how you help them overcome or mitigate or cope up with the problems that are going on that hinder them from contributing to the company. So membership and sponsorship programs, these are specific items that a lot of companies actually do not have. But mentorship and sponsorship programs provide guidance and support for underrepresented employees. You want to pair employees with mentors who can help them navigate their career paths and provide opportunities for advancement. Now, historically, maybe not as much in the Philippines, but in mostly around the world, women are historically underrepresented in terms of advancement opportunities, right? So below those ladders, after women are LGBTQ members. So in from there, the order is LGBTQ men, and then LGBTQ women,
and then Black LGBTQ women, and then Black LGBTQ trans men and women. So the farther down the minority you go, the less opportunities you have to evolve, to rather to grow in from the company. And that's something that you have to actively seek out. Am I providing mentorship programs for these people to grow? And then inclusive leadership. I would love to say that we are very, very inclusive. We have and again, out and proud gay man and a beard as a business partner, but as a straight woman. But you want to develop inclusive leaders who lead by example. So it doesn't even have to be because I'm gay, but again, from the beginning, our company was hopefully inclusive from the start. But it doesn't matter, even if your leadership is of whatever orientation. The important thing is that they are themselves inclusive people who lead by example by creating an inclusive culture within their teams. You look at your leadership and say, no bias. You want to look at your departments and say, be expansive and inclusive, right? So regarding regular feedbacks and surveys, I'm not gonna expand on this a little bit more. Penny did a great job in discussing this, but you always want to gather feedback from employees through different methods, regular surveys, focus groups, or even set up an anonymous feedback channel. This feedback is to identify areas of improvement and make necessary changes to enhance inclusivity. It's very important, guys, for you to provide these channels because some of your people already feel shunted to one side. If it's not happening, it's either because you're very, very woke as a company or you're not listening. But having at least a channel for them to say, do I feel supported by the company? And are you listening to these items? How do you treat these responses? And then, of course, you celebrate diversity. Now, the one thing that I love most is that we're able to celebrate as many different cultural events in our own company and diversity milestones. You want to encourage your employees to share their cultural traditions because, it's more fun. Experience and perspectives to foster understanding and appreciation. The one thing, so remember that the enemy of understanding is ignorance. And when you see people, and it could be like an aunt and understanding family members say, ano ba yan, mga Muslim yan, ay nako. Then I actually grew around stuff like that. And it was very interesting because ano nga ba meron? Sa Muslim. If there's a Muslim person here, it's an example, but and of course it's not until you get to recognize who they are, meet them and work with them and realize like what was all the hoo-ha about, right? So in Virtua, again, we're celebrating Pride Month. We do encourage our LGBTQ members to speak out, love, life, quality, to share their stories. We're having a great month about this. And apart from that, we do get to celebrate. At some point, we had the World Day for Cultural Diversity. We had women, and then of course, we celebrate our Muslim brothers and sisters in celebrating their holidays as well. And then finally, you go back to continuous improvement. You can't just say, okay, guys, we're inclusive. That's all it. You build this culture and it's an ongoing process. You have to keep understanding because sometimes this is all one big experiment. And for us, that's actually a learning experience as well because I don't know if you remember, Penny, but there was one time when it was a learning experience for us. We thought we were already inclusive by being able to hire all sorts of gender roles and gender orientations until we received the feedback that there was one time that one of our team members took offense because we were referencing their dead name. And when he said dead name, I was like, excuse me, what? And it was an awakening for us to say that it's one thing that affects them. Like when you have somebody who transitions male to female, female to male, that their birth name is referenced as a dead name and something that it's not part of their personality anymore and should not be referenced. So we that now we're extremely understanding of what that is. And you have somebody who has when you have a Michelle who used to be a Michael, you have to respect that Michael is not, it's not funny when you see their driver's license because that's something that they have to live with, or when you see their government papers, a snicker, a laugh, sometimes a harmless joke. Sana sinaksak mo na lang yung tao is, I think, the way that it feels for them. And I've seen a lot of friends, and I actually respect that a lot more. But again, that's something that we thought we were already diverse, but we thought we were already inclusive, but there's actually a learning experience still to go for. So you have to keep learning, like now on my Slack channel, I am he, him. Is that something that I necessarily understand? But is this something that is necessary for me to grow, to understand pronouns and how they are used? Yes, absolutely. So with that, I say thank you. I